Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt DeGeer. This is Kaliah Rogers, Jason Jeffries, and this is the first edition of our dinner/breakfast club review podcast. Last week, we talked about trust. Who is trustworthy and why was the basic question. And we're just share a few highlights from those conversations. So why don't you go first, Jason?
Yeah, sure. So I think the idea of trust, of being trustworthy, a lot of times is when someone comes through for you for something. Like if someone does something for you, you learn, okay, this person, they care about me, or at least I hope they care about me, but they are a person of their word. They come through. But I think even beyond that is just this idea of even if people don't have an agenda behind what they're doing, if they sacrifice who they are for the sake of you, it really builds like probably the strongest level of trustworthiness. That was my biggest takeaway from our talk.
Fantastic. Unless they're manipulating you, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Unless there's total trickster.
There's always a risk in trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, what really stuck out to me in our dinner conversation was a student had brought up the concept of like her understanding of trust was levels of trust. For her, it was like unless it's 100%, then it's not trust at all. But for me, it was like, no, I trust you, but I might not trust you with 100%. If it's at 65%, then I trust you with 100% of that 65. You can do it at the level of trust. You can do everything at the level of trust that I gave you, which was just really interesting to see people's definition of trust, as well as just understanding how experiences can affect your growth and getting more higher percent of trust with people.
Right.
So that was really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed it because we were talking about love always trust.
Yes, which is challenging.
Especially if that's like a characteristic of God. We were talking about like, does God trust us? But to me, that kind of helped me a deeper understanding of how maybe students view God's trust in them as well as their trust in the Lord as well. So.
Yeah. Remember we were talking about even like trust and faith and hope and how do these things work together, and all or nothing, or is there like how does God trust us? That was actually kind of fun. But hard to answer.
Yes.
It was really challenging to respond to that because people get manipulated, people get abused, and then as followers of Jesus are called to forgive those who abuse them and to love their enemies. So if love always trusts, so I love the person who's going to like stab me in the back. I mean, I trust them. Like I love them. I'll do good for them. But how do I trust them? And it's a really challenging question to answer. And I don't know exactly how to answer that question. Honestly, I'm still wrestling with it a little bit. But I think I wish I was a Greek scholar, and maybe someday we'll ask someone who is a Greek scholar. But I just wonder if that passage in 1 Corinthians 13, if maybe it applies to love is always trustworthy. Like love always functions from a place of like a trust person, like someone you can trust. They are the trust person. And so they will keep a trust for you. They will keep a confidence. You can be confident in them if the person who is loving. And then the other thing I thought about is love believes the best about others. There's like an older translation is love believes all things, which obviously love doesn't believe gravity's not real, right? Love, so it doesn't mean nonsense. But so if you're starting, or someone's late for a meeting, or someone says something that hurts your feelings, like love always trusts. So love, until it's proven wrong, says, I'm misunderstanding this. There's something else going on behind the scenes. I don't get it. I think that's my best capacity, my best ability or approach, or whatever word I'm trying to say, to trying to understand love always trusts. But we also talked, one of the things that I guess popped out to me, there were some other fun, like nerdy things about like, trust and economic development and whatnot. But we talked about how media and the proliferation of media and social media leads potentially to the lack of trust in institutions. And it had me thinking a little bit, like people trust politicians less than they ever have, for sure. And not just politicians, lots of other people, but like Congress is trusted in the United States at like an 8%. Like 8% of people really trust Congress. Which of course, really trusting Congress, like how would you ever do that? I don't know. But it's really, really low. But one thing I was thinking about is our culture has radically individualized, right? And so then, you have this proliferation of social media influencers and social media outlets and media news outlets and so forth. And then you look at the political candidates, and so you can get in the media, you can get your totally personalized view, right? Someone's going to tell you exactly what you want to hear for the most part. Like they're going to say it the way you want it to be said, in your vernacular, from kind of your perspective and similar to your social background and viewpoint, economic class, race, whatever. You can get all of that. But when it comes to a political candidate, they are just who they are. Mm-hmm. And so you hear people saying all the time, nobody's representing me. Mm-hmm. And I think what that used to mean is, you know what, no one's representing my group well. Mm-hmm. And so then they would look for somebody else, and you could maybe find somebody else who might represent your group well. But I think a lot of times we're looking for someone, myself included, looking for someone who represents me well. And if I look for a political candidate that represents me, the only person I can vote for is me. Like there's nobody else I would trust to be me but me. And so I think that's just something to chew on a little bit as we, move into, voting season's coming up. How do we look at candidates? How do we judge candidates? How do we talk about candidates? I'm not saying you should trust any particular candidate at all. But if we're just looking for someone to represent me the individual, we're going to be setting ourselves up for failure. We're setting ourselves up for division. So let's just think a little bit bigger. Politics is a communal experience, and so we need to think in communities rather than individuals all the time. And then also trying to be that person who always trusts, like give people the benefit of the doubt, because that's the way of love. If you call yourself a follower of Jesus, especially, like I think everyone should do it, but especially followers of Jesus, because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're called to do. And then how are you potentially building trust by being a person who's willing to sacrifice when there's maybe nothing in it for you? Do you actually put yourself out there for the sake of others, so that you become a trustworthy person? Even if nobody ends up trusting you, you are a trustworthy person. That is a life worth living. Thanks for listening to us go on a little bit about being trustworthy, and hope you trust us enough to see us next week. Take care.